You're listening to Wealthy-esque. We are a community of lawyers who believe that true wealth is having control of our time. I'm Ro Thomas, and as a busy wife, mom, and big law associate, I know all too well the tension between the culture of the legal profession and pretty much everything else you want to do in life. Each week, I'm bringing you the information and tools you need to take back control of your time by reframing your mindset and managing your money to achieve lifestyle freedom. Take the first step toward regaining control of your time by downloading your free Lifestyle Freedom Starter Guide at rothomas.com/start. Hey friend, welcome to the weekend. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Wealthy-esque. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I appreciate that. If you got that reference, you are definitely my people. Join me over in the Wealthy-esque community on Facebook and let me know if you know where that's from. Okay, today I want to talk about a very important topic around mindset. It's this tendency we have of wrapping our identities up in our careers. It's pretty common in America at large. Like, the first question we typically ask someone we're meeting for the first time is, what do you do, right? But it's super prevalent in careers that require professional degrees like law. So let's talk about it. Today, we're going to look at why it's so common for lawyers to equate our identities with our careers, why rooting our identities in the law is problematic, and how we can come back if we find ourselves in that place. So let's jump in. It's not too hard to see how so many lawyers wrap their identity up in their work. We invest so much time and money to even be able to practice law in the first place. Years of law school and all the hypos and the Socratic method and the rule against perpetuities and all the things. Am I taking anybody else back? Because I'm really taking myself back right now. But all the late nights and all the early mornings and the six-figure student loans and the bar prep and the bar exam, and then we finally get to do the thing. And then we spend the majority of our time at work and a lot of our time when we're not at work thinking about work, and for many of us doing even more work. So the law becomes the focus of our lives. It's the thing that everything else has to fit around. And we're taught, whether consciously or unconsciously, to elevate work above everything else, above our family, above our self-care, above all the things. And technology has only made it worse. So technology is great. I love that I have flexibility to work outside of the traditional office setting when necessary. Super helpful if one of my kids is sick or the repair guy is coming between the hours of 10 and 3, or in the pandemic, the ability to continue to work is really a blessing. But at the same time, technology keeps us connected in a way that people have never been connected before. We're literally connected 24/7, and it makes it so much more difficult to maintain your boundaries and to separate ourselves from our work. Work comes home with us. It's always there. It's just a click away. So all of that is a big part of how many of us get to this place of tying our identities to our work. Now, for the issues with tying our identities to our work. The biggest problem is when we tie our identities to our profession, we also tie our self-worth to how successful we are in our careers. We believe we're valuable because we're in a so-called prestigious profession, and we work through the night and over the weekend and all of that to prove our worth to others, and if I'm being honest, to prove our worth to ourselves. We keep striving for the next achievement, the next step, the next rung on the ladder, and we often don't think about whether the path we're on is the one that we really want. We're just going through the motions and checking the boxes. Further, we don't know how to turn that drive to work all the time off. and we just keep pushing and powering through. And it makes us much less productive than we'd be if we just took the time to rest. There was a 2014 study on the correlation between work hours and productivity from a researcher at Stanford, and he found that employee productivity significantly declined after a 50-hour work week and dropped like a brick after 55 hours. So time spent working beyond 55 hours in a week may as well have been spent doing nothing because the productivity was pretty much non-existent. Our incessant focus on work can also lead to burnout, which leads to even lower productivity. So it turns out that all of this thought that we just have to hustle hard, work longer, work harder, that doesn't actually lead to more success. We have to intentionally rest. Another issue is that lawyers whose identities are tied up in their work regularly work through the night and get up a few hours later ready to work again. But that's a recipe for impaired cognitive function. In a 2006 interview with Harvard Business Review, Dr. Charles Czeisler, one of the world's leading experts on human sleep, advised that getting 4 hours of sleep a night for 4 or 5 nights in a row results in cognitive impairment the same as if you'd been awake for 24 hours straight and the same as a legally drunk person. But here we are, as lawyers, getting this level of sleep and then turning around and making important legal decisions. Our brains legit need sleep, friend. We can't function at our best when we're sleep deprived. Finally, when our identities are rooted in our work, we have trouble coping when we stop doing that work, whether voluntarily or involuntarily. So when we don't take time to nurture the non-lawyer parts of ourselves, we have no idea who we are outside of the law. We tend to have this perception that everybody's always working, and so we feel like we should always be working. But the reality is we only see a fraction of other people's lives, and we only see what people want us to see, right? The most successful people have a more well-rounded view of themselves. They don't have any one part of their identity taking center stage all the time. So if we're in the place where our identity is tied to the law, how do we come back from it? I've got 3 tips. Number 1, remember what's important to you. So we talked before about the importance of establishing your values, your priorities, and your goals and getting really clear on those. And if you missed that, go back to episode number 2, the one thing keeping you stuck. These things, your values, your priorities, your goals, they're the keys to who you are outside the law. These are the things that matter to you, and they should be driving the decisions you make for your life. When we're guided by what truly matters, then we'll be much less likely to get wrapped up in basing our identity and our self-worth on our career. The second thing is to set boundaries. This is so critical because if we don't value our time, no one else will either. We have to teach people how to treat us, and if we don't, then people will treat us any way they want to. So a couple of my favorite work-related boundaries. Number 1, turn your email notifications off. And I know it sounds crazy, but when you're getting interrupted every 5 minutes while you're trying to finish X task, you're not going to be as focused as you want to be, and you're not going to get things done as efficiently as you could. I was really resistant to this when I first heard this tip, but then I did it, and it really has helped me focus, and no one's looking at me sideways because I respond to their email in an hour as opposed to 5 minutes later or whatever. The second thing is to set your work hours and stick to them. Let's be clear though, you have to be reasonable. So if you have a deadline and that deadline hasn't been met and it's 5 or 6 or whatever time you set to end your day, sorry, boo, you're not ending your day at 5 or 6 today. That said, though, those times should be the exception, not the rule. The number of times that I've worked outside my set working hours, aside from current situation with Corona, is very small. The third thing is to do something for the non-lawyer side of you every day. It could be spending time reading a book for fun, or doing a hobby, catching up with a friend, playing with your kids, learning a new skill, pursuing a passion project, just something that reminds you of the person you are, aside from this label you have. Just remember that law is what you do, but it's not who you are. You're a whole person beyond the label of lawyer. So let's recap. As lawyers, we often tie our identities to our profession because of the time and money we've invested to get to this point, and we put work before everything, and technology makes it worse by keeping us connected 24/7. A number of issues come up when we have our identities wrapped up in our work. Number one, our self-worth gets tied to how successful we are in our careers, and we go through the motions to achieve the next success without considering if we're doing what we actually want to do. Number two, our drive to work all the time leads us to being super unproductive and sometimes also leads to burnout. Number three, burning the candle at both ends and sleeping only a few hours a night to push through and get more done impairs our cognitive ability in the same way as someone who is legally drunk. Number four, we lose ourselves and we go into crisis mode when we leave our jobs because we don't know who we are apart from the law. And then we talked about 3 things to get back on track. The first is remembering what's important. Get clarity on your values, your priorities, and your goals, and do things in line with those. Make decisions for your life in line with what really matters to you. Number 2, set boundaries. I gave you my 2 faves for the office: turning off your email notifications and setting your work hours and sticking to them. And number 3, do something for the non-lawyer parts of you every day. It could be anything from reading a book to doing a hobby, but just something that reminds you of who you are outside of the law. Okay, that's it for this episode. Join me over in our private Facebook community, the Wealthiest Community, and let's talk about it. What do you think about lawyers' identities? If you got value from today's episode, please subscribe so you get new episodes as they're released, and leave a review. These things help other people find the show. If there's anyone you think would enjoy this episode, go ahead and share it with them. Or if you'd like, take a screenshot and share it on social media. Tag me if you do. I'm at IamRoThomas on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. As we close out, friend, I pray that you'll be reminded of who you truly are aside from your lawyer identity. I pray that you get clarity over what truly matters to you in life. And as always, I pray that you continue to take steps to regain control of your time, build wealth, and live the life of freedom and choice you deserve. Talk to you later.